Welcome to Dad Talk. Today we are at the NRB here in Dallas, Texas, and I am sitting with Mr. Brad Namdar. Brad, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Doing really good. So tell everybody a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So my name is Brad Namdar. I live in Dallas, Texas. Born and raised in Dallas, Texas. Was really raised in Plano, which is kind of a suburb.
Right.
Grew up there. Played club soccer. Was a football player. Went to Texas Tech. Played football. Then SMU. Was always in sports. Started my own company afterwards. Was a teacher. Wide variety of jobs where you learn a lot about people and a lot about families and a lot about different backgrounds and diversity. So then I started a company which was pretty successful, which was in luxury home decor, and then you learn about international trade and commerce and what it is like to have a business, and all of these things culminated to seeing where our country is today and trying to get us on the right track again on some things. And also from family to business, I'm just Texas through and through, man.
There you go, man. Yeah, you're talking about getting the country back on track again. It seems like the family has been one of the number one things attacked. And specifically here in the state of Texas, I was shocked when I got some of the statistics. 93% of fathers in the state of Texas end up being non-custodial parents.
Right.
And a lot of these guys, some of the worst cases that I've heard of in this country are here in Texas. But we have Jeff Younger's case where they're trying to gender transition his 7-year-old son. Well, he's 9 now, but it's been going on since he was 7. You got Chris Clay's case. He spent $300,000 winning custody of his child from his mom's boyfriend after she died. You got Robert Garza's case. He spent $600,000, went through 43 false CPS allegations, proved every one of them to be untrue. Mom is rich, so they can keep this process going, and then out of everywhere I've been in the country, earlier this year they had some legislation trying to go through in Texas called equal shared parenting. Are you familiar with that?
No, but tell the viewers a little more about it. So equal share parenting through the Texas State House, correct?
Yeah. So it was House Bill 803, and what that seeks to do is if mom and dad do get divorced, we'd rather them not, but if they do get divorced, mom and dad would be created equal. 50-50, do what's in the best interest of the child, and you both work together. It promotes co-parenting. And I was shocked to see 200 parents showed up to the state capitol. Biggest showing I've ever seen. Only 10 people showed up to oppose it. That was bought off by the Texas Family Law Foundation. And then 4 of the people that was sitting on the legislative committee are actually a part of the foundation too. And it got voted down. And we see these efforts that are going through trying to get these fathers back in, and it's being blocked. So I just wanted to make you, if you haven't heard about that, being able to sit down and discuss with somebody like you is very important,
Well, one thing that I think is extremely important too is that in Texas, we just had Father's Day, right?
Right.
And so happy Father's Day, late Father's Day, for all the fathers out there. And, mom and dad is important. It's important to have a mom and dad. And also, there's a lot of dads out there who are mentors or people who, they don't have a father figure in their lives. So it's great to see people step up. Now, when you have the State House, getting involved within parenting and having our government get involved, that's always a tricky area. But there's some values that we have innately in Texas that we don't negotiate with.
Right.
I think that kiddos, when they're growing up, you're going through all sorts of things. So any sort of modifications and stuff like that, you get into this area where you got to let the kids grow up. And as a coach and as a teacher, I can tell you it's very, very, it's a sensitive topic. But what's not sensitive and what's common sense to me is making sure that we keep in these family structures. It's not even, we've gotten so polarized.
Oh, yes.
To the point to where we're having, discussions about families, mom, dad, the importance of having a father in a kid's life is extremely important, and a mother is extremely important, and the abuse of the litigation process, which has now become a political ideology framework, and we can't allow that to happen, not just in the state of Texas, but in our country. So one thing I think that all Texans should advocate for, regardless if you're in a state house, if you're a private citizen, if you have a podcast, if you have a TV show, whatever, is that the family structure we have should always be intact, and we don't want government interference with how we have our families.
Right.
And we've lost sight of that along the way. And I think that's important for all Texans to realize that, and also for the courts not to have someone who has maybe more financial means to abuse it.
Right.
Because if you abuse our judicial system, you're now making it to a point where money decides how your family's designed as opposed to the rights of the individual, which I don't think that's Texas.
Well, and that's the problem with inside the courts right now. They've got these laws. I think in the state of Texas is around 20% that the fathers are getting on their custodial time or their parenting time, I should say. And society has said that these guys are deadbeat, that they don't want to pay child support, they're abandoning the home, and you see these guys that are spending hundreds of thousands of dollars trying to get in their kids' lives, but because of the way the laws are set up, and I agree, the government got involved. The government should have never been involved in our marriages in the first place, but how do we go from here to try to correct that which has already been done? Advocacy, and also holding your elected officials accountable.
One thing is this, is that I've seen, from growing up in Plano, living in Dallas, I have a gorgeous, wonderful fiance, and we talk about our kids. I'm 32 years old, and I want to be firm when I say this, is that the generations previously to us, I'm a millennial, right? Our values are the same. They're the same. It's just when you go in hyper partisan, what's a family structure? I mean, who thought we would ever have this kind of conversation? And the court systems that we have shouldn't be designed based upon mom or dad. It should be designed on the best interest of the kids. And at the same time, the stats that you're saying, it's important. There are great fathers out there, but they're already behind the 8 ball. And I'm a licensed mediator too. So I've been through mediations for divorce cases. And a lot of times you'll see, if it goes to trial, they're going to decide with the mom or the dad or things. I think we have to start looking at the best interest of the kids as opposed to you're already behind the 8 ball. And I think that the number one thing we can do as citizens, which are more important than elected officials, by the way, because citizens employ them. I have to remind people we employ our elected officials. They work for us at the end of the day. So is to hold them accountable for the type of policy you want to see. And we cannot allow for our voices that are, you can say it's conservative, not conservative. I just call it common sense, values to be upheld. And if they don't do their job, what do? You fire them.
Vote them out.
Vote them out. So let me say it again, if someone does not hold up your values or your beliefs, you vote them out. They work for you at the end of the day. And that's Texas. That's Texas values. And it doesn't matter if you're from school board to Congress to Senate to whatever, your job is to uphold the values. And in Texas, we believe that parents, dads, and moms at the end of the day should have equal rights, but at the same time, never put someone behind the 8 ball. We're going to put an end to that real quick.
The more unpopular part of that conversation that I think really needs to become the popular part, talk about the best interest of the child. I think the best interest of the child would be to have an intact family. I think if they could have mom and dad both in the household, unfortunately right now, divorce is out of hand. That's why we need to have some type of legislation, get that structured in there so that we can promote co-parenting. It shouldn't be a war. It's your kids. Mom and dad might not be together anymore, but you can still come together and parent your child. I'm curious, outside of the shared parenting angle, though, there's many different things. I think everything inside of the world right now, it's structured around the family.
It is.
It starts and it ends with the family. What are some other ideas and solutions that you can make Texas families strong?
Well, one thing is that people don't realize also, again, being a teacher, I mean, I've worked in private schools and I've worked in public schools. And working in public schools too, a lot of times the kiddos are with you 8 hours a day, right? And then you have after school programs or you have athletics afterwards. So making sure that parents make time for their kids. So when they have the parent-teacher conferences, I remember being there as a teacher and very few would show up. And sometimes you'd have one show up. So that one parent would be kind of like, balancing out. So kids need to have both parents show up at the end of the day so that mom's accountable, dad's accountable, and also they have different roles. You got dad when dad needs to be dad, you got mom when mom needs to be mom, and that's important. Legislatively, I think it's important to allow our families to be families and not say, you're supposed to do this, you're supposed to do that, we favor this, we favor that, because that's putting more government and regulations over your lives. But we also, again, have to hold our elected officials accountable. So they make it more difficult. We're going to take care of that. We got to get rid of it. And state house is different. Congress and on the federal level, definitely the federal government doesn't have any subject matter jurisdiction over Texas families. So I can guarantee you we'll take care of that as well.
You know, interesting enough, so we was here in the same building 2 weeks ago. Turning Point had an event. That's where we met your fiance, Pia. And while we was waiting, we went and talked to a lot of the ladies. You was mentioning about private schools and public schools.
Sure.
I don't know. There was something that was going on. I don't know if it was luck of the draw, but we went up to each one of the little girls and asked them, did you come from an intact family or a divorced family? One thing that we saw is the kids that went to a private school came from an intact family. The ones that went to a public school came from a divorced family. I don't know what's going. We want to do a little bit more studying up on that.
I think that, you know, one thing is this, is that, and I'm very, very much about Texas values. When I say Texas values, I mean, you know, our strength is in our diversity, and our strength is, you know, we've had 7 flags over Texas.
Yep.
And we're blessed to have diversity in Texas. But I went to public school, Atlanta West.
I did too.
You know, and, you know, my parents are still together, and I'm blessed for that,
Yep.
right? So I think that private schools, you know, you know, you can have scholarships to go to private schools. I mean, some of them are expensive. It depends on what city you live in, which, you know, there's a whole wide range of things. But that also does afford itself a certain set of luxuries too. And with public schools, we can't forsaken our public schools, because if you allow them to fail, you will feed a systemic cycle of kids being pushed through the system, and also duress among the family structure. So we have to figure out a way that allows for parents, right, to be involved, and so that stat, you know, and that random polling you did at the event goes down.
What are some ideas for that?
I think that when you look at public schools and private schools, I mean, and charter schools, right, you know, looking at models that work. Why? You know, take a deeper dive into it. Is it the curriculum? Is it the structure of the classes? I mean, one day I was at St. Mark's, and I was a St. Mark's student for a day when I was an SMU journalism student. And the way they structured their classes was very different than the way I had it at Plano West. And from advisory time to free time to also, you would just see the entire, they may require to play sports, you know, for the kiddos starting, you know, middle school, where they didn't have that in public school. So I think there's a good case study that can be done to see what's the main difference besides, you know, the quality of teachers or the endowment or what have you. There has to be something in there that's a social cause behind it that keeps it the way it is. I think it's going to be interesting to look at.
I got you, brother. So is this your first time running for office?
This is the first time.
All right, so tell us what inspired you to get involved.
What inspired me to get involved is the fact that we, as a country, I do believe that we have, obviously, and you know, we have 3 branches of government. We need to have more younger people run for office that understand the system. You have a diverse background. No one's entitled to the ballot. Let me be clear.
There you go.
No one's entitled to the ballot.
Yep.
I don't care what your last name is. I don't care who you think you are. There's no entitlement to the ballot. You have to earn your spurs in Texas. And I was blessed through adversity. If you've had, you know, adversity in life builds character. You also have to know what it's like to be around someone who maybe is different than you. Because when you get elected, you represent your entire constituency, not just some people. So understanding business background. Soccer, I was blessed to be in soccer. It's the, you know, it's a diverse melting pot, right? You know, playing college football, having all of these different experiences from business to all that stuff, you learn a lot about our country through its own self. So I look at our system, I see our legislators, and I see where we've been going. National deficits. I see our foreign policy platforms. I see our domestic economy. I see our international trade and commerce policies. And I see a lot of things. And I said, well, instead of sitting here and complaining, you know what? Pony up. Get on the saddle. Run. You know? And that's what I feel is a fiduciary we have as Americans.
Right.
And our generation needs to do.
Well, sometimes I take a little flack for talking to people and doing politics, but, you know, I used to want to stay out of politics, and the more I got involved and I saw these problems, if you don't get involved in politics, all you're sitting around doing is sitting around and, you know, complaining. You got to get involved. So to hear that you did that, you know, really makes me glad, man. And I love hearing a little bit about your platform. Tell everybody where they can keep up with you and how they can support you.
Well, so the one thing I also want to say is that it's intimidating to get involved in politics too for a lot of young people because you're told, hey, earn your spurs or wait your time and all this other stuff. And to anybody who's young, who's out there, who wants to run for office, why not? Go try it. Okay? Make sure that you're ready, aim, fire, not fire, ready, aim. Okay? So that you have your policy platforms and things like that. If you want to follow me on Instagram to know more about me, it's at Brad Namdar, and that's NAMDARTX. That's my Instagram. You can see my Facebook, Brad, B-R-A-D, Namdar, N-A-M-D-A-R. And we're going to be launching a few things coming out soon, hopefully. And it's going to have a lot more that goes into there. But I'm going to make sure that, and I'd encourage also young people who want to run for office as well, if you're going to run, make sure you know your topics and make sure, and I like to see a lot more conservatives run with policy platforms and legislative platforms.
Right.
Because it's easy to say, hi, I want to run for office and and this is me and this is my family, this and that. No. Earn your spurs. Know what you're talking about and do it.
That's right.
Because it's time for us to get back to common sense on some things.
Man, I love it. That's just the thing I like doing with all the candidates before we end the show. If there's any parent here in the state of Texas, which I know we got a lot, that are going through some of these issues with the families or wanting to see some solutions coming to there, what's some words of encouragement? What could you say to them?
I've never been more hopeful, about our future right now, because guess what? We're going to make some changes. I do think in the right way in our country. Everybody wants to be happy. Everybody wants to have prosperity. Everybody wants to have their kids have a better future. And I'm blessed to have great people around me. I'm blessed to have a great family. I'm blessed to have a wonderful fiance. But most importantly, we're going to have young leaders that are there for you, that are not career politicians, and we're going to have statesmen and stateswomen elected. I do believe that in my heart, and we're going to have some fun. We're going to get it done. And if you've ever felt forsaken, feel forsaken no more, because we're going to make the changes this next generation. I can promise you that.
Brad, it's been a pleasure, brother.
Pleasure.
All right, good luck.